Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined recently every Sunday by our football analyst, William Gardner. I thought maybe we'd get Hoodie William today following the Shedeur Sanders slide in the draft, but we've got Tie-Dye William today.
It's Memphis in honor of our newest lineman.
Okay, Xavier Hill. Okay, you're representing. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So, not necessarily the week we expected for the Colorado Buffaloes coming off when we hit end of last week's episode. There is a glass half full, a glass half empty approach to this week. There's actually some really positive stuff that happened this week. And I kind of want to start with Travis Hunter. Is that okay? He was tied for the highest ranked draft pick in school history. The Jaguars traded up, and in that post-game press conference, unlike, and we'll get to this later, the Shedeur Sanders press conference with their brass, is the Jaguars GM and coach were like, we're going to do what Travis Hunter does best, and that's playing both ways. And so there couldn't have been more of a buy-in to how special he is than what the Jaguars gave him, not only by trading up, but also by some of the comments that have been made since then. What did you think when you first heard that Travis was going to play for the Jaguars?
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. To me, they got to go and start out and play for a team. I was just glad to see them embrace him and see his happiness. And there was one thing where he went down to their headquarters and they had all their employees out in the hallway, and he's a funny kid, and I don't think he felt entirely comfortable in that moment. But he's just such a good guy and can't help but bring a smile to your face. And I think we're going to get to scouts because I got plenty of things to say about those coffee drinking clowns. But you can't help but watch Travis Hunter's film going both ways and not think to yourself, how do you not do that? I mean, my God, they're talking about starting him out as a wide receiver, and then I keep thinking about all the times he's covering one guy and goes and intercepts on another guy. It's like how do you not put that out on the field?
Well, if they're open to the experiment, he can prove he's willing to be able to do that, right? I feel like that was the important thing for Travis Hunter, was getting in an NFL organization that at least valued the versatility and was going to kind of base it on what he can handle. And it sounds like that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody in the NFL is going to play every snap of a whole game. I don't think anybody in the NFL even plays every snap on one side of the ball because they're so situation oriented and changing guys out and whatever. But with a wide receiver and a cornerback, there are so many different ways you can use him. In sort of spot duty in different situations on either side of the ball, and clearly wide receivers don't play every play. So there's a lot of different things you can do with him. And I think people look at him and, just to look at him standing on the stage, he's not physically imposing or anything like that. And you sort of think, really, that guy, and then you put him out on the field and he just does kind of crazy things. Because especially at wide receiver, you don't think to yourself, well, this guy could be one of the best wide receivers ever. And then he goes out on the field and he just makes things happen.
So great situation for Travis Hunter, right?
Yeah. And great, great for CU football, I think, and great representation for us in that respect. And so I think that was an exciting and a very positive outcome.
So let's dive into this. And for folks that are kind of just totally fatigued from the NFL draft stuff, I get it. I'm there, and I was telling my wife this morning, I was like, let's just get through this podcast, and then we'll see how they do. I can turn into a fan. Don't have to put analysis on everything. But we're going to get into some of the recent defections out of Colorado's program, talk about whether or not we're overreacting to this recent attrition, and talk about the depth concerns going back to Shedeur Sanders on draft night number 1, draft night number 2, and then into Saturday. it is maybe the worst slide in the history of sports.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to that because I don't really do that kind of statistical analysis and things like that. But there's no question that it was a disappointment for Shedeur and disappointment for Colorado football and the Sanders family. And I don't know. I mean, as you can imagine, I'm going to have a different take than probably what everybody else had to say. But it's really inexplicable. Well, I think it's explicable, and people aren't going to like what I think it is, but that's what it is. And what I think stood out to me is the class with which Shedeur handled it, what he's shown in there. This is all bullshit. It's all bullshit, and everybody wrote those articles. You're full of crap, and you ought to get a new business because you suck. Because what is it about Shedeur? What makes him cocky? That he held his freaking watch up? That he called a guy mid? Those are the only two things I can think of. There's no other things he's done. He hasn't got in trouble. He's got good grades. He's been a good leader on his team. You want to talk about how he plays the game, that's fine. But don't talk to me about this garbage, this racist garbage about what's the word they say? He's brash and he's arrogant. They don't call white dudes that when they're quarterbacks. They call them confident, self-assured leaders. But let a black quarterback, have confidence, and all of a sudden he's brash and arrogant, and it's bullshit and it's racism. And anybody who wants just what I look like, walk up to me on the street and say something. You won't like the outcome because I'm sick of this crap, man. And they trashed out this kid, and I don't know what happened in his interviews. Okay, I've read all that stuff, and maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But something happened that went far beyond his ability to play. And I look at a kid who's been respectful and good to people and has never gotten any kind of trouble. And all you got to do is look at his pregame routine that he goes through to see he works as hard as any quarterback you'll ever find. And I don't know what the hell a coach would want besides that. To have a guy come in and work as hard as he can to be as good as he can and lift your team up. There's been no indication that he's ever dragged down the Colorado football team in any sort of way. So all that's crap too. And let me just say one thing to all the dumb idiots out there who say, hey, you think you know more than NFL scouts? I got a trash can and a toilet that know more than NFL scouts. These are the same damn geniuses that drafted Tom Brady in the 6th round. Okay. I mean, don't tell me these clowns, they miss as much as they've hit. And every single year, there's guys that are busts that are drafted in the 1st round of the draft. And, all right, I'm going to breathe now.
Well, I guess my biggest issue with this whole process and why I was so frustrated watching it for 3 days waiting is the hypocrisy involved here.
Yeah.
Of you can go out and do awful things in real life and still get drafted early on. But like you said, you have a little flash, a little confidence, and then you slide. And I do think there is a component of it where a lot of brass in the NFL is scared to take a Sanders because they feel like there's going to be these looming questions over them. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know. I would say that generally most of the scouts were probably begging their GM and their coach if they needed a quarterback to take him, but that there was kind of this, you got to save your own ass aspect of being a GM.
I think the one thing you just said that may be a legit thing though is how many of the teams really did need a quarterback, and versus what's going to be a better quarterback draft next year. I don't know. That may be a thing, because I guess if you're looking to bring in Shedeur as your quarterback of the future and your savior of your program, I guess that's one thing. But are you willing to bring him in to initially at least be a backup? I don't know. That's a different ballgame. But all this talk, what you keep hearing is he was brash and cocky and arrogant. Well, let me just throw out Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. Those two clowns make Shedeur look like Saint Teresa or Mother Teresa or Saint Mother or what the hell ever else you want to be. And those two clowns got drafted in the 1st round, and look what they've done. I mean, it's just ridiculous. and part of it is you hit on a thing too, is that there was a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, a Sanders tax. And I've been saying all along, like with the jersey retirement, if Shedeur's last name was Johnson or Gardner, there had been no controversy about this guy. He had been universally perceived as one of the best quarterbacks around, right? But because he's Deion Sanders' kid, he gets labeled in an entirely different way. And let's just face it, there's a lot of people in America still don't like a black man to be brash and outspoken. And there it is.
So the prank call controversy, have you seen both ends of that?
Oh, boy. I don't know. Well, I guess I don't know what you mean by both ends.
There were video recordings from Shedeur's side of things and getting that call thinking that he was getting drafted. Yeah. And then also from, I call them idiot kids. I call them idiot kids because that's what they are. And we were all idiot kids at some point. But, well, I was thinking last night, like, in all the dumb stuff I did as a youngster, like, this would have been beyond any line that I would have ever even fathomed crossing.
I'm gonna push back on you because I was an idiot kid too, but I never did anything purposefully and overtly cruel.
Yeah, that's what we're on the same page. Yes.
And you sons of bitches, whatever college you're at, if I get your name, I'm sending it out and I'm gonna show up because you clowns, I hope you get outed and I hope you get what you got coming to you, because that kind of behavior, there is no justifying that kind of behavior to another human being. There really isn't. And it's just cruel so you can get your kicks. And if I come across you, we're going to throw. We're not going to talk. We're not going to have any discussion about it. Your teeth are coming out, boys. So there you go. Here's what I look like. Come to Denver. Let's play. Because there's so much about this. And clearly this whole thing has struck nerves with me. But it just makes me sick. And we've talked about it in these podcasts numerous times about Shedeur, and every single time I've said, what's he done wrong? Ever. Point me to something. I can't see it. He did this. Big damn deal, man. I was in the stands as a CU student. Brian Bosworth gave us both middle fingers, man. He got drafted in the first round. Nobody gave a damn. Dude held his watch up. I tell you what, I'd been giving both middle fingers to that group of Arizona State students myself. But no, he holds his watch up, and all of a sudden he's a jerk. I just don't understand it, and I haven't understood it for the last 2 years. But what I hope now for Shedeur is, he'll be out from under the spotlight of his dad to some extent. He'll always sort of, have that, but at least he's playing on his own, and I hope to see him go out there because he's the kind of guy that's going to study and learn. And, I've seen the talk about our offense wasn't that difficult and whatever, but Shedeur Sanders is the kind of guy that's going to put in the time to figure it out and learn it. And anybody who doesn't think he's coachable is an idiot, because you just look at how much work he puts in with various different coaches. And it's clear that he listens and has a humility. Okay. And I'm gonna throw that out there. Some jackass on the board made a joke about, you use Shedeur and humble in the same sentence. They belong in the same sentence because he is humble, not in the sense that, I'm just going to say he just is, and I think he's going to kick ass, and I hope he makes a lot of these people look really stupid. But the one thing I don't think you'll ever see from Shedeur Sanders, and I guess I'm doing it for him, you're never going to see bitterness and anger and whatever, because he handles it with class, and he always will.
What these NFL teams clearly want is a robot, right, William? And that's the sad part of it. Shedeur is going to sell so many jerseys there in Cleveland. And frankly, after seeing that interview at the press conference with the head coach and GM, I don't think Cleveland deserves Shedeur Sanders.
Hell no. I mean, they're the same jackasses that aren't they the same ones that drafted Manziel in the first round, for crying out loud? And so now it's like I saw one guy
and Dylan Gabriel before picking.
Oh my God.
Do you want to run with that one there?
Yeah, it's like I saw, and I don't remember who it was. Somebody said on Twitter, it's like that the Cleveland Browns got a lottery ticket, man. And they didn't even buy it; they found it on the ground. and this guy is going to be everything, because everybody can revisionist history all they want, but going into the draft, the consensus was that he was going to be a top 10 pick, and everybody could say different now, but that's what people were saying before the draft. And I, and I don't, I'm no judge of quarterbacks. Hell, what do I know? I know linemen and tight ends and linebackers, but I'm not going to tell you where a quarterback should go. But
you've watched enough football in your life to realize that Shedeur Sanders should not be a 5th round pick, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you can at least say that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think, I think he's clear. Well, I mean, and you again, you watch the draft over decades, which sadly I have, and it's remarkable how many quarterbacks don't pan out anyway, even the first round guys that are sure things, right? And then you mentioned being a robot, but look at some of the best quarterbacks in history. They ain't robots, man. John Elway wasn't any kind of robot, I was, well, I'm not going to tell that story. I'll tell it to you off the air, but where I ran into John Elway once, not paint a flattering picture for either one of us, but Terry Bradshaw had who was it with the Raiders for so many years? Hall of Famer. You're looking at me like I'm a dog showing you a card trick.
I grew up with the Raiders playing Bo Jackson on Tecmo Bowl. So I'm trying to think back to a Raiders quarterback that was a stud. I'm just not a big NFL guy.
Yeah,
and this process has not made it any better for me, I will say.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Ken Stabler.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Kenny Stabler was a partier, man. I mean, of course, that was a different era, granted, 70s and 80s, whatever. But, a lot of great quarterbacks have not been guys, that just are just robots and do things the usual way. Peyton Manning, I would say he's no kind of a robot. I mean, that, he's a different kind of cat, right? And sometimes you need that. But I think Shedeur brings everything that a guy can bring to the position of quarterback to be successful in the NFL. And in a way, I would be happy for him, but it kind of sucked to have the dang Browns benefit from it, just by accident.
Well, everybody's going to be anxious to watch that. I was driving for an hour and a half this morning, taking my daughter somewhere, and I was listening to satellite radio, listening to both the NFL channels and the college football channels. And there were a lot of people that called up and said, I was kind of a Shedeur hater until I saw how he responded to getting picked. And it wasn't bitterness. He jumped in the pool. And something, William, you've said so many times, Coach Prime and his family, the Sanders family, they exude a lot of joy. And I applaud how they responded to all this the last few days.
Yeah, I mean, that and there's never been anything but that from Shedeur, if you're paying attention, and most people are not, I granted, but we have never seen him do anything. I'm just digging for something.
There was a guy, the Nebraska guy that was on their field, and that's when the whole watch thing started. It was like basically get off our logo and disrespecting us. Like, and the reports about the New York Giants meeting not going well and him not being prepared. Well, y'all drafted Jackson Dart. Good luck with that. Y'all were way too stubborn there. Yeah. So that's on you now.
I'd be willing to make a large wager with anybody out there as to who stays in the NFL longer between Shedeur and Mr. Dart.
So there you go. So again, hypocrisy showing itself in the NFL, and that's not everybody, but that's a general's blanket statement based on what we saw the last few days.
But that goes back. I mean, you hit on something that I just need to keep putting out there, man. I have never seen, outside of a couple times in press conferences with Coach Prime, anything from the Sanders family except joy and happiness and being kind to people and laughing and being happy. I have never seen anything but that from any of them. I don't know. I think about like the commercials and stuff, and certainly those are scripted, right? But you can't script chemistry between people, and you just see when they got all the kids and their sister and everybody else, and they just like each other, just happy people. And everywhere Coach Prime goes, he brings happiness. You know, he sends a team over to help out an elementary school kid. He don't got to do that. That doesn't benefit his program in any way. He's just a positive human being. And yet there's this I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. There's this agenda that goes around that Deion Sanders and his sons are somehow bad people, and it's just ridiculous.
Shedeur Sanders was the last player to leave Folsom Field after the spring game, taking pictures, signing every autograph. My wife was down there photographing it. So, I think we can move on to other topics unless you got anything else you want to add here.
And I bet he had a smile on his face the whole time.
The whole time.
Engaging with kids, engaging with their parents. You know, and I'm starting to get emotional about it. But I got to tell you, you know, 60 years on the planet, and especially in the business I'm in, it means more and more to me every day, every week, every year for people to just be kind. Just be kind to people. And I don't see anybody that does that better than the entire Sanders family. And I don't, you know, put aside all the football stuff, just their kindness and decency to other human beings is what stands out to me about that family. And so, you know, I hope to see, I hope both of those kids, and they're kids to me because they're 20 something, but I hope both Shedeur and Shiloh go out there and kick ass in the NFL. I hope Shiloh makes a 10-year career, and I hope Shedeur ends up being one of the all-time quarterbacks. And you know, I hope 10 years down the road, I hope none of the people talking their trash right now will show up because they know how wrong they are.
Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support, but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. William, everybody that listens to our podcast knows that we love the Hungry Toad. They've been bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen paired with a brilliant selection of British beers. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. If you're mad for football, so are they. Whether it's the American gridiron or European footy, they proudly support CU football and CU women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, Boulder's local pub that's not on Pearl Street. Head to 2543 Broadway in Boulder.
And you know what? Hans Serrata don't take no whoopings either. He hands them out. How's that for a second?
I love it. A couple other guys that Deion, Coach Prime Sanders had a big influence on were receivers LeJohntay Wester and Jimmy Horn Jr., both selected in the 5th round. I mean, Coach Prime almost became a father figure to Horn and really challenged LeJohntay Wester to step up as a leader, and he accepted that role. Wester goes number 203 overall, and Horn goes to the Panthers at 208 overall. Wester to the Ravens, if I didn't say that already. So that was maybe overshadowed by some of the Shedeur Sanders sliding down the draft part, but those two guys are going to be fun to watch at the next level. LeJohntay Wester is going to be probably a punt returner initially, try to work his way in the mix as a receiver with the Ravens and Horn. I would imagine he'll be a kickoff returner, at the next level as well, and be a special teams guy early on. So, but both great guys to cover Colorado and to follow along with.
Well, that's what, if you saw, I think it was the head coach they had an interview with, might have been the GM. I can't tell who's who in the NFL anymore, but But the Ravens guy was just super excited about LeJohntay Wester, saying he's going to be a difference-making returner from day one. So it's fun to see him go where he's really wanted and excited to have him. And, and Jimmy Horn Jr., I'm excited to see him go out there and do things. And then I think, several of these guys signed free agent contracts who I think are going to do a lot more than what people expect as well. So, overall, a fairly decent day for CU football, best we've had on draft day in quite some time, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Like you mentioned, some of the undrafted free agent signings, safety Shedeur Sanders and receiver Will Shepherd both signed on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. BJ Green II and Cameron Silman-Craig with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Jaguars also have, of course, Travis Hunter on the roster now as well. So I was joking, it's going to be the Colorado Jaguars. Somebody said Boulder Jaguars has already been taken. So, I think that's going to be fun. Justin Mayers, offensive lineman for the Buffs this past season, signed on for a mini camp invite to the Broncos. Still waiting on word for some others like Chidozie Nwankwo, Vonta Bentley. It feels like there's some other guys that should get an opportunity as well, at least at a mini camp, you would think.
I think the two guys I'm going to keep an eye on, and I think they're going to make it, is Will Shepherd and BJ Green. And I don't know what they don't see in Will Shepherd. He ran well, on timing day, and he's got the size and everything else. So I think he's going to be a surprise and should have got drafted. BJ Green, I think they're just never going to get over his height, given that the NFL is so fixated on their, numerics and what's the stupid word everybody uses for all that kind of stuff. But I think BJ
the
Green,
measurables.
No, there's another word that I was anyway, doesn't matter. But I think he's a guy that's going to find a role, as a pass rush type of a guy, and will make a name for himself a little bit in the NFL as well. I think Chidozie Nwankwo is just handicapped by his height and lack of length, and nothing he can do about that. Did you recall what he measured out at for height and arm length?
Yeah, I could look at it, and I'd have to pull it up on my.
Yeah, it's not that.
Yeah.
On the defensive line, they're looking for length, arm length, and height, and he just doesn't have it. He's an immovable object, but it's different in the NFL. So I think somebody got to give him a shot, and I think if he can get into a camp somewhere, he'll hang on, because he's one of those guys that overcomes the measurables and makes things happen. So. Well, makes things happen, not in the sense of getting in the backfield and making plays or whatever, but you got to count for him with a couple of blockers.
Yeah, I'm not finding his way. I know he did 30 reps at the combine, which was something that would have been very highly ranked at the NFL combine. I CU has him listed at 5'11", 290. That sounds about right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If he came, I would be surprised if he measured at 6 feet, to be honest, and that's just going to be a problem.
Yeah. So with the current Buffs, we got some stuff to talk about before we close out this podcast. Brandon Hood is not in the Buffalo's plans at running back, and as a result, that prompted cornerback Colton Hood and walk-on linebacker Trent Hood, also in the Hood family, to hit the portal. This was all kind of broken down by Coach Prime's pastor on Twitter, that Brandon Hood was basically said, you're not in the plans, and because the Hood brothers came to Colorado initially together, they're going to take their talents elsewhere. Your reaction to this, I'm curious to get it.
Well, I think, I think Colton Hood, to me, has NFL potential as a defensive back, and I think we should have kept him and done something. And I think Brandon Hood, to me, clearly has the potential to be a decent running back at this level. So I'm not really sure why we I have to believe that Coach Prime had face-to-face discussions with these kids, and he had to know, and I don't for a second believe that Marshall Falk, as a running backs coach, got to make the decision that's going to get rid of two guys. And so I think they had to know that if you don't keep Brandon, you're not keeping Colton. And I think Brandon brings enough to the table to keep both of them. Should have been something they should have done, but I don't know. I think we don't really have a running back room right now. We got two guys. And that's not a running back room. That's a bad day away from having no running backs. So I hope they got a plan. I hope they know something we don't know. Because right now it's not good. Aside from the Hoods, Zach Owens, I think, was a significant loss. Tajay McCoy was a significant loss. I'd still like to have Cash Cleveland because, you never can have enough good offensive linemen. Isaiah Gustav's a loss, but, beyond that, what do we really lose? Well, mostly guys that would be classified as walk-ons or guys that I didn't see playing that much at most of these positions. So I don't know, I think we've seen what's pretty par for the course for every program out there in terms of guys leaving. I think we're probably doing better than most. I clearly haven't done a comprehensive review of every roster out there and see who they've lost, but I don't think we haven't lost. I don't know. Outside of Tajay McCoy, I think we haven't. To me, Tajay McCoy is the only sure thing that we've lost. Colton Hood, those two guys.
Colton Hood, but Isaiah Gustav even, but like you said, if you bring in another running back, then maybe that's not as important. But like to me, Brandon Hood is a depth piece, an important depth piece with 4 years of eligibility left. So it's even like just focusing in on him. You don't even focus in on Colton Hood for me. When you make this decision, it seems short-sighted.
Yeah.
And yes, you could bring in a couple running backs. You still want Brandon Hood in this program, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And then you throw on the fact that his brother transferred there with him to play with him, and he's one of your top two cornerbacks. There is no panic button anywhere near me. Every transfer cycle that Colorado has been in, there's been a moment where some folks hit the panic button, every single one of them.
Right.
And then things rally. So I don't think we're going to have to push the panic button, but I think when you look at this specific situation, I just think it could have been handled better.
Well, I would just like to know what the thinking is. Why do you get rid of either one of those guys? I just don't see it. You don't have a settled running back room. I guess that, there's no harm keeping the guy. He's not tearing down the program. I guess if Marshall Falk looked at Brandon Hood and thought, well, this guy can't play at that level, maybe, I suppose, but can't you keep him around just to keep his brother around, who's a potential NFL talent?
He can play enough at this level. We've seen enough of him, William, right? Yeah. Not a whole lot, but the little we've seen of Brandon Hood, like he can play at this level.
Yeah. I think, and that's why I look at all these guys that have lost. It's like, Isaiah Gustav, I believe, is a good running back, but he hasn't proven it yet. Zach Owens, I believe, is going to be a really good offensive lineman, but he hasn't proven it yet. And that's sort of, you just go down the Hood. Colton Hood, I think, has clearly proved his ability to play at this level. But, beyond that, everybody understands the question marks on Cash Cleveland. I'd like to measure Cash Cleveland myself, because if he's 6 feet, I'd be surprised, as an aside. But beyond that, who'd we lose? I don't know. Now we got to fill out some spots and get some guys in, but everybody acts like Friday was the end of the portal. Nobody can sign that. It's like, that's just getting everybody in. Now you got up until camp starts to sign guys, right? So I don't know what's out there. If there's like you, I think did you make the comment that a lot of the spring portal just seems like teams trading their backups?
Yeah.
I agree with that too. And so I guess you're kind of looking for guys that you like better than the team they were on liked them.
Yeah. And one thing to add on there, go ahead.
Or fit your needs that you need more than that team needed them, maybe too.
Well, also to add on to your point about the fact that, the portal did close to non-graduates. graduates can enter at any point, and now we're late April. I know CU has their final exams early next month, their graduation. I would imagine most schools that are on a semester program would be in a similar spot. So there's going to be guys that are going to be hitting the portal late that are going to keep getting added. Now they're at 66 scholarship commitments right now. That's a pretty low number for a Power Four program at this point. You mentioned, everybody kind of focuses in on their team as a college football fan, and there's a lot of this nonsense going on across the country. So it's easy to kind of get insulated into overreacting over things, and I couldn't agree more. But is there some concern about, okay, are we going to be able to fill out all these positions that need depth, like running back, safety, like in linebacker? Are they going to be able to fill all those gaps? What's your confidence level on that?
Well, I'm 100% confident, and I based that on the last 2 years of what we picked up in this particular portal period of spring going into summer, and we picked up a lot of good guys. I mean, Nikai Hill-Green came in during this period, for example, and then I think there's a lot of guys out there. There's more guys that will get in. I think our coaches are going to work hard to find guys. I think we desperately need to fill running back, linebacker, defensive back. Some people think we need an offensive tackle. I'm not one of those people, but aside from that, I think we're pretty good at most positions. So I think there's 3 spots we need to fill in pretty good. One thing is there's probably more defensive backs out there than any other position except wide receivers. So there's a lot of guys. Now they need to bring in a guy that fits with us and can play well. So I don't know. I mean, I think just based on the last 2 years, what we've seen with Coach Prime, that I feel entirely confident that we'll get this done. I think we had a rough week and a rough weekend, and it all kind of piled up, and everything looked kind of bleak. And I think we wake up today. It's a nice sunny Sunday, and golly gee, maybe Coach Prime will come to Boulder, because that's apparently the most important thing in the history of the world, is that Coach Prime be in Boulder. Because
they could. Let's be honest, they could probably use him back in Boulder now after the draft.
Yeah,
I would imagine he's coming back to help out with some of this transfer recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't going to be gone forever. But to me, it's the same as the controversy if he doesn't visit guys in their homes, right? Coach Prime doesn't need to be face to face with dudes to have his impact, but I would bet that he had face to face conversations with all of these guys at some point. So having him back, this whole fixation on him coming back to Boulder, my God, he's not doing his job. Okay. Well, Coach Prime does his job in a different way than previous head coaches. And I'm sure he's doing his job in his own way. He's not out there 24/7 just holding Shedeur's hand and, dabbing tears out of his eyes and stuff. I mean, I'm very confident he's still doing his job, and they're going to come back. And I don't know. I mean, it will be curious to me to see if there's any discernible difference in Coach Prime moving forward after what happened with Shedeur, and with both of his sons not on the team anymore. And it is a new era, and it's officially in that new era now with both of those kids moving on to the NFL. And so we'll see. I don't know, we'll see. I think one of the question marks about Marshall Faulk was he's never had a recruit before. And some people say, well, he's got a gold jacket so he can recruit. Well, we'll find out,
There's got to be something up his sleeves. There has to be.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't ask Brandon Hood to hit the portal if you didn't.
Yeah, unless there's something going on that you don't even know.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like, too, is every time we've had, like you said, we've had these moments of, there was always something behind the scenes. And, say what you will, but Coach Prime runs a tight ship as far as, loose lips sink ships and all that kind of stuff. Things don't get out. His pastor might get a talking to.
Yeah. I can attest to that. There's a very tight circle working there at Colorado, kind of an unconventional way of doing things. I would love to be an advisor to just tweak things a little bit from their side to make it. So from the local media standpoint, we had one guy, everybody knows Sean Keeler, the hit below the belt, and it feels like maybe a lot of us local media kind of gets lumped in now in the same group, and I don't think that's fair. But when I am asked on national interviews about Coach Prime and they just want this dirt, I'm like, you're going to be surprised when I tell you, like, it's a really disciplined program that he's running in Colorado. And it's not really much different aside from the press conferences. Those are definitely more high energy. They're more highly attended by media. They're more watched by folks. That's a little bit more of a spectacle, but it's not that this program is being run drastically different than other top coaches in the country run their program.
No, not in those senses. I think that that Coach Prime has different approaches to lots of different things about the game, but certainly not in that respect. And and makes it a little bit hard for fans who want to know what's going on behind the scenes. But there's always seems to be something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I think I think people sort of have felt like that when guys visit here, we have grown to expect immediate commitments and such, and that didn't happen these last couple times. But I think we're going to get the guys we need and fill this out. So I have to wait and see.
Let's wait and see and come back next Sunday and see if we can talk about some new additions via the portal. I am not big in predictions. I got to do a crystal ball prediction on 24/7 Sports every now and again, but I feel confident in saying there's going to be at least a new transfer commit to talk about by the time we come back on the air together.
Yeah, I hope so, and that'll be fun. We'll address that, and maybe we'll lower the angst level a little bit out there. We could be the doctor is in. Take a seat on my couch.
Well, Cleveland, you don't deserve Shedeur Sanders, but you got him in. Shedeur, there's no chance he's listening to this, but go prove those people wrong, because that was so unfair what happened the last few days.
Yeah, kick ass and take names, my man.
Yeah. All right. Well, appreciate you as always, William, and I appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.